Ladies and gentlemen, this is Infosode 6, and we will be going over recent, recent developments between Iran, Hamas, US, and obviously, as you know, President Trump. So, this is Be Well Informed. All my agents of info, stay tuned. As we all know, I'm sure you all are very well informed, but we will make sure we get the news out there regardless. So we're going to take a quick 15 to 20 second or however long or however quick break, and then we'll get started. So, see you then. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. So, as mentioned in the beginning, we will be going over the new not escalations, but new developments between the U.S. And Trump giving new, I guess you could say, not orders, but new new directives for Iran. I guess you could say new policy that he wants to push forward towards them, and developments between Hamas as well. So, for this video, we won't possibly have an infosode directly during this or possibly after, but we will have one for this in the future. And for all episodes, they will eventually have their own infosode that you can check out on bewellin.com to check out the infosodes for these videos. But for this particular one, we won't have one right away. So far, we only have 2 actual infosodes up, so go check the site out. You'll have to go to videos in particular to grab the link for that particular infosode, if there is indeed an episode for that episode. Now let's go and get into this. So we will be going over a few videos in this particular infosode, and as normal, if there's any future updates, come back to this video or check out a future one, and the infosode itself, if it has one, will be updated or a new one will be added to it. So the 2 videos we'll be going over is Trump makes a bold move against Hamas, Iran, and the ICC. This is coming from the 700 Club channel. And the next one after that will be a video from, pause that because I don't want it to get that sound going. I thought I had already set up to skip it, but I guess after a certain amount of time it resets. But anyways, so the next one will be from, and actually I can't really see who this is from. It's not showing. If I find it later, I will definitely mention it in the meantime. But let's go ahead and get started. I will get that, who this video is from, in a little while. Let me just grab it now. Since we're on it, people, we are on it. Little technical difficulties in finding some info. It's acting a little weird. I like to give the credit as soon as possible before I forget. If I forget later, then, then I'll forget to say it. So let's just do it now, people. So I'll make a note of this and make sure we just write it down next time. Since I can't remember how computers acting with not a. Okay, so this is from First Post, their channel. But anyways, nonetheless, these are the things we'll be going over for this particular video. So without further ado, we will begin the first video and check that out to see what's really going on.
President Trump is once again standing up for Israel. He signed an executive order imposing sanctions on the International Criminal Court after its actions against Israeli leadership during the war in Gaza.
The White House isn't stopping there. The administration is also planning new moves against Hamas and Iran. Chris Mitchell brings us the story from Jerusalem.
President Trump's order imposes sanctions on the International Criminal Court over what the White House calls illegitimate and baseless actions targeting America and our close ally Israel, including issuing arrest warrants for the arrest of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant over their conduct of the war in Gaza. Trump accuses the ICC of abusing its power and setting a dangerous precedent by trying to arrest top leaders doing their job. The ICC is calling on its member states to stand up against Trump's sanctions. In Washington, Netanyahu met with more congressional leaders. Axios is reporting while Netanyahu was at the White House, he reportedly laid out his ideas for phase 2 of the hostage deal in Gaza. They include top Hamas leaders going into exile and Israel ending the war. Netanyahu's spokesman says he didn't present a plan for a second stage of the deal. On Saturday, Hamas is set to free 3 more Israeli men held hostage in Gaza. The Trump administration is also taking more actions against Israel's enemies. One of new Attorney General Pam Bondi's first moves is launching a task force to punish the Hamas terrorists who attacked Israel on October 7th. Ynet News reports the Justice Department says it will seek to extradite the planners and perpetrators of that brutal assault, which killed 1,200 people in Israel, including 47 Americans.
So, as you all heard there, I'm going to pause it real quick. Just for my self-confirmation for the info I just gathered. I'm sure you all gathered as well. You had to have, because this isn't too much, I guess you could say, of unexpected things that happen. So pretty much, at least for this recent news development, is that Trump's going to be serious on going after those who actually allowed and planned that attack. And as we all know, there are at the moment leaders of Hamas living in certain places, kind of freely, just freely living there, and they were some of the ones who were part of allowing that strike to happen. And I would assume, based off what it sounds like, also was part of the planning, and getting the resources to them to take out that particular day of attack. But anyways, let's continue.
The task force will also go after Hamas supporters and funders in the U.S. And the Treasury Department is targeting an oil network which it says generates hundreds of millions of dollars for Iran's military. After meeting with congressional leaders and administration officials, Netanyahu said Thursday they asked him a simple question.
A country that is as small as New Jersey, from where do we get your strength? I said, our strength comes from our people and from our heroic soldiers, and from our faith and the understanding that we are fighting for thousands of years of Jewish history and for our right to a state of our own in the Middle East, in our historic homeland. This is the truth, and it will take us very far.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
What a difference an administration makes, finally going after the funding sources, finally standing up to what the ICC did. What a travesty of justice where the chief...
So that's actually pretty interesting. So putting sanctions, I guess one is sanctions on people who were supporting Hamas, I guess in a sense that I know universities, I didn't really follow too much of that for everything, but I know universities, you had the supporters of Hamas, and I know they had a few demonstrations here in the U.S. And some of those events, I'm sure there were threats made, I believe I've seen over the past year. So that's particularly what he's mentioning there for when it comes to the U.S. And as you all know, there are plenty of Hamas personnel around the world as far as the leaders, and they're going to make sure that if they can, extradite them from wherever they are.
prosecutor is, he's British, but his parents were Pakistani Muslims. The chief judge is now the prime minister of Lebanon, another Muslim. And you look at, what were they intentionally targeting Israel? The answer is absolutely yes. And they were trying to set the stage for the arrest of the prime minister and the defense minister, and they were trying to make Israel into this pariah nation, all because Israel was defending itself. The attack of October 7th was absolutely horrific. And the architects of that attack, the participants in that attack, were vowing to do it again and again and again until Israel no longer existed. Well, the international community should absolutely support Israel's right to defend itself. And that is part of international law. Israel is recognized by the United Nations. And as a recognized country, any ideology, any group of terrorists, any government that wants to wipe Israel off the map is moving against international law. So where's the justice in saying, well, we're going to put the leaders of Israel in jail when they tried to defend their own country? It makes no sense. And finally, we have some common sense in our administration. And all the turmoil there is in the world.
So, I mean, just as expected from this story, what Trump's doing, making a bold move against Hamas, Iran, and the ICC, trying to cut funding to Iran with new policy, I guess you could say, as he did before. And the ICC mainly just going after them for what they're trying to do. And based off this info, what the courts did to try to pretty much accuse, their leaders there of the horrific acts. And I don't know exactly how much power those courts have. If it sounded like he was trying to say that, and we probably have a future update for this, maybe for a different story, or maybe for this. I don't think one's probably going to be required for this. But to see exactly what they were going to try to do, if they had any power whatsoever to do anything against Israel's leaders. And I'm speaking on the ICC, that is. So now we're going to get moved over to the next particular story in this. And hopefully they don't try to make us watch it again. And they are, people.
Restore a maximum pressure policy on the Iranian regime. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. I would love to be able to make a great deal.
US President Donald Trump wasn't done just with Gaza. He made another move in West Asia, this time against Iran. Trump has restored a policy from his first term, his maximum pressure policy. Now, some of you may know that Iran is not very fond of Donald Trump. There was allegedly a plot last year before the US presidential election, an Iranian plot to assassinate Trump. It was thwarted last September, but the suspected assassin is still at large, and now Trump has decided to ramp up pressure on Iran. He was asked if he feared another Iranian attempt on his life after he brought back his maximum pressure policy. And this was Donald Trump's response.
If they did that, they would be obliterated. That would be the end. I've left instructions. If they do it, they get obliterated. There won't be anything left.
Mr. President, when you said if they do it, they get obliterated, just to be clear.
I took two things that I love, dancing
attempt on your life?
Yeah. That would be called total obliteration.
Trump says he has left instructions. If Iran manages to kill him, he has directed the US to quote-unquote obliterate the country.
And ladies and gentlemen, I believe he is not joking around. So as we all know, some years back, last time he was in office, he assassinated or had General, I forgot his name now, but they had the general assassinated, General, I might get his name really wrong, Asamali. Ooh, I had it at the top of my tip. I had it at the tip of my tongue, and I just forgot it. But and as the general was assassinated, and Iran promised to try to get Trump back, pretty much. So we know since then Iran has had a target on Trump's back, and Trump's saying now, try it and see what happens. That's pretty much what that story is right there. So let's continue.
It's quite the threat.
Is it Soleimani? I think it was General Soleimani.
But why was it even being discussed? Why would Iran want to kill Donald Trump? Well, his maximum pressure policy would bring a world of hurt for Tehran. So there's always the fear that Iran could retaliate, especially considering what happened the last time. Iran signed a deal back in 2015 when Barack Obama was US president. It was conventionally known as the Iran nuclear deal. But Donald Trump tore it up unilaterally during his first term as president. He replaced it with sanctions and increased scrutiny of Iran's activities, both nuclear and otherwise. This was his first maximum pressure policy. It caused Iran's economy to crash, bringing hardship to everyone in the country, both the government and the ordinary people. This policy was in effect during all of Trump's first term, and the sanctions stayed even after he left. Joe Biden continued with Trump's policies despite trying to negotiate another Iran nuclear deal. He couldn't. And it doesn't matter now because Trump would have torn it up anyway. So now we are back to maximum pressure, and Iran is in for another bruising. First, let's look at the policy itself. It has three broad goals. Point 1, Iran should be denied a nuclear weapon and intercontinental ballistic missile. Point 2, Iran's terrorist network should be neutralized. And point 3, Iran's aggressive development of missiles as well as other asymmetric and conventional weapons capabilities should be countered. This is broadly what the deal says, what the policy says. Now, points 1 and 2 are straightforward. Iran cannot be allowed to build a nuclear weapon or an ICBM, which is an intercontinental ballistic missile, a missile that can travel over 5,000 kilometers. Officially, Iran does not have these ICBMs. It has a number of short and medium-range missiles, but no ICBMs, and Trump wants to make sure that they cannot build one. He also wants to go after Iran's proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, and the Iran-backed militias in Iraq and Syria. The US wants to neutralize all of them. And then we have the last point.
Before we get to that last point, so pretty much, ladies and gentlemen, Trump is saying, no go further. I'm putting my policies back in place. I'm sure there are going to be some changes here and there, but he wants to make sure Iran does not get the weaponry and the capability in any way, shape, or form to have any kind of military and or, I guess you could say, ballistic advantage or any kind of possibility of causing any more damage than it can currently. So, and it will give them more bravery, I guess you could say, to probably do more, whatever they want to try to do to Israel. And he's also trying to make sure that Israel is safe, since, that's one of the reports on this. So the info here is pretty steady and good. They're making it pretty easy to understand. So let's continue. Of course, I didn't just state everything, but just a quick thing that I thought of the most when I just, for the first 4 minutes of this vid. Let's continue.
Iran's aggressive development of missiles, as well as other asymmetric and conventional weapons capabilities, should be countered. What does that even mean? Effectively, the US wants Iran to disarm itself completely. No more weapons, no more military activities. They want Iran to become a sitting duck. Do you really think Iran would ever agree to this? Would any sovereign nation? Best case scenario, Iran will shelve its nuclear ambitions, and Trump understands this because that's all he seemed to care about.
They cannot have a nuclear weapon. With me, it's very simple. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. We don't want to be tough on Iran. We don't want to be tough on anybody, but they just can't have a nuclear weapon.
The second part of that statement was quite interesting. Trump said he does not want to be, quote unquote, tough on Iran.
Iran situation, hopefully, I'm going to sign it, but hopefully we're not going to have to use it very much. We will see whether or not we can arrange or work out a deal with Iran, and everybody can live together, and maybe that's possible and maybe it's not possible. So I'm signing this, and I'm unhappy to do it.
That was before he signed the order. But even afterwards, while he was standing next to Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu, Trump said this.
I say this, and I say this to Iran, who's listening very intently. I would love to be able to make a great deal, a deal where you can get on with your lives and you'll do wonderfully. You'll do wonderfully. Incredible people, industrious, beautiful, just an unbelievable group of people in Iran.
Netanyahu was right next to him as Trump called Iranians incredible people. Perhaps that is what prompted Netanyahu to remind Trump about this.
We also see eye to eye on Iran. That's the same Iran that tried to kill us both. They tried to kill you, Mr. President. They tried through their proxies to kill me. And we're both committed to rolling back Iran's aggression in the region and ensuring that Iran never develops a nuclear weapon.
Netanyahu was talking about the alleged Iranian plot to assassinate Trump, almost reminding him that Iran was his enemy. And how is Tehran dealing with all of this? Listen to what their foreign minister had to say.
I think maximum pressure is a failed experience, and testing it again will lead to another failure. If the main issue is stopping Iran from pursuing nuclear weapons, well, this is something achievable. This is not too difficult. Iran is a committed member of the NPT, and its stances are clear. Also, there is a fatwa by the Supreme Leader that has made things clear for us.
He said the maximum pressure policy failed in the past and it will fail again. However, he did seem to offer an olive branch, saying if the main issue was to stop Iran from getting nukes, it was achievable, and that Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has issued a fatwa against nukes. So it would not be too difficult to reassure Trump, to convince him that nukes were off the table. Now, all of this should be taken with a fist.
So, hey, it looks like from what I just gathered from this video, for the last one, not so much from the last one as far as all the stories from the last, because the last one had a couple different areas, but they did talk about Iran initially and trying to keep Iran from getting particular just weaponry and stuff, or so much ability to do their operations they have across the regions, right? So it sounds like here to me, in the end, coming to the end, is that the Iranian government is like, hey, if that's all it is, if that's all you want, Trump, then hey, we can talk. We got this, baby. Let's go. That's what it sounds like to me. Agents of info, please let me know what else we got to look into for this. From what I see, at least and it sounds like she's about to get the butt in there, but we're going to see what she comes out with next. But what I'm gathering from this, folks, is that Iran wants to say, hey, if that's all it is that's keeping you up at night, then hey, we will work with you on that. We can make sure that we don't got the nukes. We're not even trying to get that. That's what I heard. And Trump, if that's all he wants, then hey, then we're good, folks. Bat the hands and let's go. All right, but let's see what she got to say next, because I'm sure you all already know that she's going to say, is this really going to be the real deal? Or something to that nature. So let's go.
Full of salt, because Iran is still enriching uranium and trying to produce weapons-grade nuclear fuel. If push comes to shove, Iran may choose to build nukes, because if nothing else, they would be a massive deterrent. But all that is in the realm of speculation for now. The fact is, Trump has reimposed his maximum pressure policy. His expectations are sky high. But if Iran actually stops its nuclear program, will the US back off? Or are nuclear weapons just an excuse to continue crippling Iran? We will see in the coming months.
I guess we'll see, folks. But the info we have, though, that we're trying to gather, though, is that Trump is putting new policy towards Iran, towards Hamas, the ICC. And the ICC is more of like a sidekick, like a side quest, if you ask me. It's not as serious to the top of the line business as the Hamas deal in Iran, but it's still a serious, important deal that they want to make sure, I guess, doesn't get out of hand for future conflicts, I guess you could say, or use as a tool for particular other nations to use, and maybe in the future come up with some new world policy to use the ICC in this manner. That's what it sounds like to me for that. But the other two issues, it looks like the Iran deal, there's a possibility, as we just seen here, that both sides could work together. Trump could get something deal kind of going with Iran. If the only main deal was the nukes. So we'll take that part of the info and we might just make an infosode for this one because, folks, ladies and gentlemen, it does seem like we will be coming back to this one. So we will create an infosode for this one. Probably not soon. We'll probably make one when another story about it comes out, a new update comes out. We might create an infosode, put the original content from this one in there, just a quick brief rundown, and then add the infosode part 2 for this particular incident. Again, the infosode episodes, the infosode pages on the site, on the website, bewellin.com will not always have a page for each video, but eventually we hope to have one for each video because there won't be one for each video when they're initially made, but some videos will have a infosode page and will be updated while I'm making the video, and you'll all be able to follow along with those when that happens. But when that happens, you will for sure know that it's happening because it will be part of the video. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that does it for this video. Stay tuned. Agents of Info, we got some good new tech coming out that we're going to be building to get the agents out there, to get the info we need, to get the info you need, and get the info that you can then survive off of. Agents of Info, this is Be Well Informed. Until next time.